Hello, I am Pastor Linda Manson. I was a member of the task force that drafted the social statement we are studying. I serve Living Gospel Ministries in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and we have a focus on mission that offers resources and assistance to men and women returning to our communities after incarceration, those with a criminal conviction in their past, as well as their families. Today's session highlights the ministry of hospitality and accompaniment. We're going to talk about practical actions congregations and members can take. Let's begin, though, with a quick review. In Session 1, we were introduced to the new social statement created by our church body, the ELCA. We pondered reasons we are called to care about the subject of criminal justice. Those reasons included what God desires, justice, and what our confessions teach, compassionate suffering. We learned that our church can be identified by a mark of compassionate suffering. In other words, we go with God to the hard places. During Session 2, we named some of the people who are crying out for hope and justice. For example, victims of crime, families of incarcerated people, juveniles being tried as adults, those who are convicted and have no possibility of returning to community, and prosecutors who are doing their best to care for their clients. We confronted racism in the system and turned to the story of the Good Samaritan to think about what all this means for today. In Session 3, we further equipped ourselves as Christian witnesses by focusing on God's message of justice. We recognized that God's will for us is to flourish. We stated that because of sin, we experience God's action in the world in two ways. God works through a form of justice called civil righteousness to seek just laws and humane systems within the institutions of the world. God also dispenses spiritual righteousness, which we receive through the gospel. These two types of justice are distinct, but related. You may remember that we looked at our yearning for both kinds of justice because they demonstrate God's vision for all of us. Now that we've reviewed what we've learned so far, today we can begin to imagine what happens and how we apply all this to the pain of a broken system of criminal justice. Even though we still may want to run away from this difficult subject, three things fortify us to stay: God's word, the world's need, and our God-given sense of fairness and ministry. When we do stay, we receive an opportunity as the church. We are blessed to witness to Christ's radical love that turned the world upside down. This love includes listening, hospitality, accompaniment, and advocacy. We've already talked about listening to the cries of the people calling for help and change, and we'll look at advocacy in the final session. So for today, we'll focus on hospitality and accompaniment. I'd like to share with you what hospitality looks like in the work I do. At Living Gospel, we witness the power of hospitality every day. I recall a young man who came in for assistance with finding employment. He was depressed and had very little self-confidence. He had lost his job due to a DUI conviction. He was paired with a mentor whom he met with weekly, as well as attending our life skills workshops. Just a few short weeks later, this young man was smiling each time we saw him. When I asked him what made the difference, he told me that just knowing that there were folks who cared about his success and were willing to invest time to assist him made all of the difference for him. The social statement reminds us that hospitality opens a door to another person, even a stranger who may out of the blue ask for our protection. Of course, we must stay mindful of the safety of all, But any congregation can show hospitality to a stranger who needs a worshiping community of word and sacrament ministry. As you may recall, the ELCA tagline is God's work, our hands. The statement suggests that God's work includes accompaniment. Accompanying takes place in many different ways, but basically it means that we stay there with someone, journeying through an extended period with them. So, for example, at Living Gospel, we regularly correspond with men and women who are currently incarcerated and are beginning to plan for returning to our communities. We assist them with finding the resources they will need. We also have trained volunteers who meet with their families and help them to understand the changes they will be facing as their loved one rejoins the family and the community. In short, we share a part of their journey as they reconnect with community. Other possibilities I know about are a congregation can offer a safe space for family support groups, or work to secure safe housing for a former offender, or organize transportation for someone to visit an incarcerated loved one. We can all pray. Pray for the people we've heard that are crying out, and keep praying, and keep praying. We can provide long-term support for families of offenders. We can offer worship and presence in correctional facilities. Because the incarcerated population has increased so dramatically in recent years, the professionals are often unable to keep up with the spiritual and social needs. We can learn about what accompaniment looks like from incarcerated Christians who support one another through prayer and listening as they face the challenges of imprisonment. But most importantly, we can be that faithful and unwavering presence for our brothers and sisters that bears witness to the light and love of God and helps them to know that they too are valued and loved by God. So as you can see, there are many opportunities to treat people in the criminal justice system with dignity. We are called to bear one another's burdens by listening, by welcoming, by accompanying. When we, as the ELCA, bear the burdens of our brothers and sisters in the criminal justice system, we become a yes to others as a response to God's yes to us. Now, you've heard a little bit of my story and heard about a few other ideas for loving ministry. Now it's your turn to brainstorm actions that you and your congregation could take.